for coming.
Okay, thank you all for having us. Chuck and I will both do an introduction, tell you a little bit about ourselves. Maybe we'll interview each other a little bit. Chuck and I are new friends. We just met on this trip.
That's
So
right.
we're still learning about each other. And maybe if we ask each other questions, you'll learn a little bit more about us. But first, we should probably say, why are we here? Right? So Chuck and I were invited guests and trainers for the American Council's Young Professionals, or YPIP. Do you remember what the acronym
Young
stand?
Professional Internships Program.
Program. So it's a distinctive program. Hopefully you all apply for it in the future. That helps you learn about new leadership skills, including business or entrepreneurship, which is a common bond. Why Chuck and I sort of know each other. And as we get to know each other, we realize that we know a lot of the same people in the United States. We do radically different things. I'm in the American government, public official. Chuck works and has had a distinguished career in academia and is retired. He'll talk a little bit more. But briefly, again, Jack Bienko. I think my name is John Bienko on some documents. My nickname is Jack. So I'm a junior. My dad's name was John, and his nickname was Jack. I'm his baby boy, and they also call me Jack. I grew up in New York State, one of our large states in the United States. I went to a couple universities. I was the first person in my family to ever go to university. Everybody in my family, previous generations, was a steel worker, would do welding, and other jobs like that, manual labor, right, working with grain elevators. So I was the first one to study books, go to university. I had no role models. My dad, who I loved, couldn't really tell me what it was like to go to university, but you persevere. Chuck and I will talk about that. I've got 3 sisters. I'm the baby boy in my family. My sisters are brilliant, smart, and I look up to them. They live in the United States and they work in different industries. As I mentioned, I work for our American government. We have an agency that supports small businesses. We do that primarily through financing. Small businesses often need a loan or an investment, or they may need to mentor themselves. They, like I was the first college graduate, a business owner may be the first time entrepreneur or business owner in their family or their network. So they may need a coach. We provide coaches for them, and we do other sort of ways we engage with universities, like Chuck is going to talk in a minute, or community colleges, to help sort of spur things on. I often visit our embassies in the United States. So if you ever are a future in a delegation from Uzbekistan and you visit the United States and you go to Washington, you might see me again. Our State Department or embassy might ask me to come talk to you about entrepreneurship. And if we ever do that, remind me that we met here, all right? And it'll be awesome. But I'm so proud to meet you all. I think young people that take the time out to come to embassies, listen to old people like me and Chuck.
I'm calling old.
I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me. It's a great learning environment because you could be doing other things, but you care enough to learn and expose yourself to different areas of the world, including to visiting Americans. I hand it over to my buddy, Chuck.
All right, thank you, Jack. And we did. We just met, and we found out immediately we have something in common. When we both went to undergraduate school, he has a urban and planning degree, and I have an urban planning degree. So who would ever imagine, as we get to know each other, that we started with similar careers?
Yeah, let me ask, because I do this, what is urban planning? Does anybody know, if you study urban planning, what does that mean? What do you build if you're an urban planner, typically?
What'd you say?
Cities.
Cities, you're helping.
Cities. How do you build cities? How do cities don't just appear? What do you need to plan or build?
How to build cities, destroy building, and like through way, this kind of things.
Yeah. How do people get around? How many schools do you need? Hospitals.
Transportation, water and sewer, the things that we don't see.
My future job is organizations, that's why I'm interested in these things.
Oh, great.
Excellent.
All right, back to you.
Well, my name is Dr. Chuck. That's what I was called back when I was working at the college. And I started in urban and regional planning, and I focused on historic preservation, trying to protect a lot of the historic properties in our communities. And that's why I've always been so fascinated about traveling, coming to your country, first time, amazing. I was just in Istanbul. I had an opportunity to go to Italy in October and seeing ancient, historical sites. You come to our country, 300 years old maybe, max, and we're so proud of that, and you come over here and it's thousands of years old. We have nothing in comparison, so it's really exciting to see that. But I talked about, in leadership last night with the students, you always have to look for new opportunities. And so when I was doing that work in urban planning, there was this job at a local community college, and I applied for it. It was in student services. And I didn't have any background. That's not what I had studied. But let me share with you, a community college is a 2-year college. It's not a 4-year university. It's not a 4-year academic program. It's for 2 years. And there are 2 degrees that we offer students. One is as associate in applied science. So we have wind technology at the college where I was president. And therefore, someone could come in for 2 years, learn to become a technician, and make a very good salary working as a technician in the wind industry right there close to our college campus. Automotive technician, they could acquire that in 2 years and go out and work on repairing those Chevrolets that are everywhere here in Tashkent. I mean, we were shocked to see all these Chevrolets. It's amazing. So that's an important skill, and auto technicians in the United States really make a great salary because it's such an important skill. Nursing, we offer that in 2 years. Nurses are in great demand in the United States and across the world, and we certainly saw that during COVID. And so we offer that as a 2-year opportunity. Business management. So that's the difference between the community college, where you can go for 2 years and go immediately into the career field of your choice, but we do offer another pathway. You may come to the community college for 2 years and then transfer to a 4-year college and university. And so your first 2 years, you're taking your English, your math, social sciences, your natural sciences, all the things that you would take at a 4-year university, but for a lot less money. So then students are able to save their money because they get to live at home, they get to save money so they can get to the university, and so it's a great pathway for many of our students. And the other advantage of a community college, I say community, because there is a community college in every region throughout the United States. It means if you live in one of those regions, you can get access to that college. It's right there in your community. So accessibility is so valuable to many of the students. So I started in 1986, a long time ago, and in 2010, I became a college president at a community college. And it was such a great opportunity to be able to work with students and now work with the community. So that's how we have some similarities, because our college was involved in entrepreneurship, trying to encourage all of our students to think about entrepreneurship. And you might look and go, well, Dr. Chuck, I'm not looking to open a business. Why would you be interested in me learning about entrepreneurship? Because you might become an intrapreneur, which means you're working in an organization for somebody else. You don't have the risk of owning the business, but you're making a contribution to the business. You're making a contribution to the owner of that business. And when you think like an entrepreneur in that organization, you become extremely valuable to the owner of the business. So that's the reason we were trying to encourage all of our students with an entrepreneurial mindset. Think about how you can begin to develop that. So that's a little bit of the background. I'll close with this. I decided I wanted to retire. I wanted to have a new journey. I've been talking about entrepreneurship, so I created my own consulting business. So I've been working from home, consulting and helping other community colleges part-time. But the only thing, and you probably experienced this during COVID, how there was a disconnect with all of your friends and your family members because of the pandemic. and you might have been on the computer a lot more with Zoom or other applications. So I'm sitting at home doing consulting, and I'm connecting with people on the computer, but I'm not able to do that face-to-face interaction with people, or sit down and have a cup of coffee or whatever, or a meal. And so I took a part-time job, Monday through Thursday, as a day bartender at a local brewery. So people come in and traveling, I pour beer, and I say, "Where are you from?" And I have conversations with people during the day. And I like it because now I'm getting paid just to socialize with people. So it's been a fun opportunity. So that's a little bit about my background.
Yeah. Hey, another quick question. Well, I'm going to quiz you, and then you need to teach us something. So, and there's no right answer to this, so be comfortable. What is an entrepreneur? So we use it commonly, that term in English, but it's actually a French word. What is your definition of that? And then I'm going to ask you the second question.
I think one of the definitions is entrepreneur is people who bring new concept of business, new concept of business. No, yes, businessman, but he brings new concept.
Like people come up with new ideas and they do contribution to society.
Mm-hmm. Give me a couple more. I want about 4 more definitions.
Yeah, and those are our
Yeah,
great start.
yeah.
They're right.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, like entrepreneur is a person who runs a particular business. It could be like about medicine or like new product. So he runs like his own business.
Got a couple more.
An entrepreneur is an independent person working for himself.
I think it's someone who can create, not just sell something, but use the creation or creativity.
Great. All right, young lady.
Unlike businessman, entrepreneur, I agree with this girl's opinion.
Okay.
Like create something new, like Microsoft. Create.
Okay.
He's entrepreneur. So
You- go ahead.
The thing that is not that exist yet.
Okay, so not kind of an inventor.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, entrepreneur maybe grew up from startups, but not business.
All right,
Can
all right.
also
Yeah.
from startup.
So I'm going to be a couple funny definitions, but he's very smart, so he's going to give us his definitions. So we asked that.
Just set me up, right?
we ask American students that too. So funny answers are so this is just having fun. This is not the definition. They say it's people who hate their boss. So they like to quit and they want to go start their own. They don't like working for other people. They say entrepreneurs are people who get frustrated easily, so they want to invent because they don't like the old thing. They want a new thing, and they're constantly inventing. An interesting thing, and I'll tell you a story later on about the computers you have here, why you have computers here in your embassy. Americans cannot spell the word entrepreneur. We ask our major search engine companies, Google and other search engines, Americans often misspell that word. Because again, it's a French word, we use it commonly, but there's not usually a common definition, and you learn a little bit more about it. What would an academic, a learned man, a smart gentleman such as yourself, what other descriptions would you give them back? 'Cause
Well,
they were very
They were
good.
right on spot on with it. This is not going to be an academic answer because when we were working at the community college, we covered 6 counties, part of our region. And our region was very agricultural. We had a lot of poultry, we had cattle, we had some corn. And we realized when we were talking entrepreneurship, many of the people in our community were like, I don't know how to identify with that. And the way we were able to communicate that is the local farmers who settled in that land, and many of the families that were still farming, they were the original entrepreneurs because they would have land, they would create their property and farms and have their produce, etc. They didn't have an Amazon, they didn't have anywhere to go on the internet and order things. Many times they would make their own instruments and farm equipment to be productive. And they were the original American entrepreneurs. very much like in this country, the farmers, all of them were the original entrepreneurs. So they take what they have and try to work with it in order to create a new lifestyle. And now we see a modern age where there are new inventions, new opportunities, but there may also be, like for myself, consulting. There are many consultants, but I don't have to report to anybody. I manage my own budget. I set my own schedule. I can choose to work today or choose not to. Entrepreneurship, it provides that freedom to know that you're the one responsible for your business, for your lifestyle that you want to have. But I like to think always, and Joe Cap is one of our mutual friends. Our institution, our college, we have what was called an entrepreneur in residence. And what that meant, Joe was a very successful entrepreneur. He had all this wealth of knowledge to be able to help other people, young, middle-aged, old, who were interested in this whole idea of what is an entrepreneur. And he would be able to work at the college and meet with people in the community, and he would say, hey, how can I help you? What's the idea that you're looking to do? And he would give you that guidance so you would not make mistakes in starting that new development or that new business or that new concept. And so an entrepreneur in residence or a small business development center, and you could talk about that.
Yeah. This is what it's, some of the mentors or coaches that I mentioned that we, in our national government, works with universities. So again, if you have an idea, you can sit down with somebody and they will, kind of like a homework tutor, right? If you're struggling in a class, they will sit down with you and say, you're really good at this, you need to do a little bit better at this component, because being a business owner, while you have a lot of flexibilities, means being your own boss can be a complicated thing. You need to, you're usually talented in a few things. We all are, including in school, right? You're good in some subjects, but you might need a little extra help in others. I've got one other question that we're going to sort of talk about. And Chuck and I met earlier. We're happy to field any questions. We have a common bond about entrepreneurship, but you might have questions about, I don't know, science or art or some American thing. You all are probably the second group of the Pakistanians we've met.
Yeah.
So, right, we'll share openly. I have a question for you. What are your stereotypes or assumptions about Americans? Has anybody visited? Again, this is my first visit to your country. Has anybody visited America? Not really. So do you see it primarily through movies or television or music?
Yeah.
So just okay. We're in a safe area. We don't take offense to anything. What are popular things in America? You tell us. What do we do? What do we pay attention to?
Excuse me, sir. I have your question and answer. In the United States, in the U.S., is a modern and each further development around the world. The stage of first places around the world is the GDPs and each structures is developed in this country, and we have see this in U.S. only movies and broadcasting channels, and we have this news and any other sources we watch and we reading about the U.S. and I know I'm using this U.S. company, the famous and around the world, the famous companies, the smartphones, it's Apple, it's iPhone, the product, and I also work at the American franchising companies, the fast food companies, the Wendy's, this in Uzbekistan, and so it's the United States give to the international peoples the challenges, opportunities, the success, and development skills and development build the new career and inside in the U.S. and in United States it's most comfortable in the country as I know this this whiteboard is that it's a Martin Luther King and say I have a dream. I have dreams. It's also one.
Yeah.
Is it is in my opinion, my opinion, I will go to the United States. It's my first dream to like is the younger this dream to the present day. I have a dream to the United States, stay and live and work and learn this American culture. And
excellent. Yeah, we encourage people to visit.
Yes, and we have this relationships between the United States and Uzbekistan. The 13th year is this year will be celebrated.
Excellent, excellent. Do we? So a couple things you mentioned or whatever. So many people in different countries who haven't visited may have heard of our corporate brands, commercial brands, technology companies. How about our celebrities? You all are young.
Yeah, we know.
Who are the famous celebrities in America that you all pay attention? Okay. Elon Musk, an entrepreneur.
Donald Trump.
Okay. And you mentioned Mr. Trump. And Eminem. Okay. Got it.
Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. Okay.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle. Yes. It's interesting. Always, just again to hear it a little bit. And I forgot to ask you all something. So we asked you an entrepreneur. Can somebody go up to that board? Hold on 1 second. Can somebody go up to that board and write entrepreneur in your language for Chuck and I? We should not leave here without learning how to. What is the word that you use in your language? Go ahead.
In Uzbek language.
Huh?
In Uzbek language.
Yeah. You pronounce it and write it. I want to be able to go back to America and use your term about entrepreneur.
It sounds like Tadberko. 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 Yes, that's right.
All right.
Russian as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In Russian, we like
Предприниматель.
in Russian language.
We also say businessman or businesswoman.
Okay.
Okay.
No, like
It's a little bit hard to pronounce.
Okay. That's it. So we make a little distinction between business man or woman in the United States in English and entrepreneur. The reason being, you could be an entrepreneur and not have a business because you think like an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs don't always start a business. Entrepreneur sometimes is a mindset. You're looking for solutions. But it's also difficult to start a business sometimes because you might be creative, but you need that coaching. So, you could be a business owner that's constantly entrepreneurial. You start multiple businesses, or you just be. So we make a little distinction. A business owner, typically in our vernacular or our language, means you actually have a business. It's what we call incorporated. You might have employees, or if you're a consultant like Chuck, you may be a one-person specialist, right? And one thing we talk about people is, we talk about the iPhone, right, as an Apple product, and we talk about that product all the time. For his business, he is the product, right? Because if you work with Chuck Company, you're hiring him, right? You're hiring his knowledge, his ability to communicate, and that thing. So he's his own iPhone, right? So as a business owner, he needs to make sure his iPhone, his product, which is him, he's well dressed. He's always got he's all organized and has great things to talk about. So again, if you are what we call a service oriented or a consultant, we make that distinction too, because you're young and we want you to explore as many possibilities, right? Some of you are probably gifted at technology, some of you are very good at media, or maybe very creative, and there's a lot of different outlets. I know you have sort of emerging economies here. Chuck and I have walked some of the streets and talked. We took our coats off and talked to some of your restaurant owners and other folks to learn a little bit more about whether people were running the restaurant because their parents had started the restaurant and they were working there, or what they aspire, to do. And you have really interesting cafes and cyber gaming stops. I went into one of your cyber gaming stops. I think I was the oldest person that ever visited one of those, but it was really, it was very dynamic. I'm not sure if any of you all do gaming.
I'll put a twist on what you shared with the entrepreneurial mindset. And Jack was talking about, you know, the concept of the entrepreneur. Well, when I was a community college president, that's not owning a business. It's the president of a college. And I'll share with you this, we were a very small college. And we were funded by our state, the state in which the college was located. And then we did get some other resources, like students would pay tuition, like you would pay maybe tuition at a university. But the state would always cut our money each year, and we'd have less money to be able to operate. And so we would have to get smart. We'd have to realize, how do we begin to continue to serve our students with everything that they need with limited dollars, with limited resources? And that forced us to start thinking differently. And we developed an entrepreneurial mindset. We started to think about, how does the college begin to consider itself like a business? How do we begin to manage our resources? How do we become more efficient? And I had to be able to change the culture of our way of thinking about the college. And I had a great team of people, and having the opportunity to work with Joe Kapp, our entrepreneur in residence, he gave me great technical advice about how we could develop that entrepreneurial mindset. And we were able to do that. And in 2016, my peers at other colleges, community colleges, acknowledged me as the entrepreneurial president of the year. So it's a mindset that also can be developed. You don't have to own a business, but how you think like an entrepreneur can help what you are trying to achieve. You might be in government. You could be an entrepreneur within the government. You might be in the college, like myself, and be an entrepreneur. So the mindset is a very powerful thing, because we all realize sometimes the voice in our head sometimes can really create negative things for us and impact our self-confidence. But when you change that mindset into something positive, woo, you can really make some great changes.
How to build this mindset? How to build or change this mindset?
Yep, you gotta change here before you can communicate and change others.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have any mindset or knowledge of it.
Yeah. So there's a couple ways you can do that. We both have some ideas. So one, to address that question, and I forget who was providing a definition. One of the definitions I really like is, because it gets to the mindset, is an entrepreneur often uses what he or she has available to them, right? Now sometimes we have money, we save some money, we did tasks and use that money to buy something, resell it for a profit, or you invest in yourself. Or sometimes you have a computer and you do some coding or other things that sell. So you're always thinking about, what do I have and how can I use it in a creative way, right? That's sort of an entrepreneurial mindset. The opposite of that, right, would always be telling yourself you don't have enough, so you can't do anything. So just sit back, right? It's somebody else's problem, and you give up, right? I can't do anything. I'm not good enough. I don't have everything. I don't have what Elon Musk has, so I'm just going to sit there. That's not an entrepreneurial mindset, right? So again, wherever you are, if you're a student, a university president, a public servant, you have to sort of think about. So you can do that sometimes through, and when you teach entrepreneurship, sometimes just through group exercises. So simple exercises, they may give you, and you may do programs like this here at the embassy. They may do something as simple as give you 10 sheets of paper, 3 sticks, and a pencil, and they'll say, build something interesting, right? And again, your mind it practices your mind. It's like lifting weights or shooting baskets or sports. What can I do to quickly make something on this? And the more you do that, the more you get used to it. And it's a cheap way. It's not expensive to sort of practice that. It's also hanging around with people that also try to do this, because we learn from each other, right? I think also at your age, and this is my opinion, you have to be selective who you hang around with, right? Sometimes people are fun to hang around with, but they're troublemakers, and that's why they're fun. But you have to start positioning yourself, because you're getting older, deciding what things you want to get into, and you kind of should hang around potentially more people that either are trying to build an entrepreneurial mindset or trying to go in a different area. because we learn from each other, right? As animals and as a species. And sometimes there's an old saying, birds of a feather. Has anybody heard of this saying? It's something we say. Birds of a feather flock together. Meaning, right, if I look at, I'm not sure if you guys are buddies, right? But if I looked at front row and I knew you were buddies and you always hang out, then I could probably predict some common things you guys like, whether it's gaming or something else, because we kind of tend to hang out with each other, right? Joe and I might be, Chuck and I might be friends a long time because we found out we have a couple friends. He used to work in a large organization. I work in a large organization. There's certain things that, you know, we learned along the way. So it's hanging out with people that are also trying to build. They may be building or trying to do other things, but again, you can compare how have you done this, you know, from a peer standpoint. If your universities here have programs, you might try to do that. You might go work in a small business, right? I mentioned restaurants. One of the best ways, if you ever aspire to open a restaurant, go work right now, be a waiter or waitress or a cleaner in a restaurant, because you're going to observe and you might actually be able to sit down with the owner eventually and also ask some questions. Where do they get the money from? How do they order the food? All these things that you can't just walk in and ask, but if you're working there, you might have a little bit of time. And you're also saying, how could I do this a little bit better, right? Would I hire better staff? Would I use a different menu? So working in a business is also a good way to build the mindset. Chuck, do you have other suggestions on how somebody builds an entrepreneurial mindset?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that helped me when I was in high school, and this really kind of applies to the urban planning, I was very much involved in the art class. And I discovered my art teacher, she was married to the urban planner right there in the community where I was living. And I wanted to be an architect, but my math skills were not so great. And she could see that I was discouraged. And she said, well, have you ever thought about urban and city planning? It's something very similar. You're very good at design work. So I spent 3 days in that office with her husband, meeting his staff. It was a great way for me to understand the concept and really kind of learn a little bit about the mindset of the urban planning area. And then in college, I found an internship extremely valuable for my being able to find a sense of direction. So even though you might be young, look at some potential people that you can meet that are entrepreneurs. And by networking with them, you can learn a little bit about that mindset. You can learn a little bit about what their skills, their characteristics, what motivates them. And that way, over time, you begin to learn that as well, and it helps you develop your own mindset.
Yeah, we were teaching the older students in the program that we teach in the evening, and yesterday Chuck had them practice what's called elevator pitches. Have you heard this term, or do you know what it is? No. So the elevator pitch is a concept of if you were in an elevator, right? We're in elevators for just maybe 2-3 minutes. So you had a brief amount of time, and you met somebody like Chuck, and you wanted to meet him quickly because he might be able to work with you or invest in you. In very brief amount of time, how could you get his attention, and could you be very clear in what you're trying to do, right? You may be an inventor or something, you just have 2 minutes with him in an elevator. Can you be concise and not nervous, right? Not sort of stutter or pause or be too shy, and really communicate confidently, clearly to somebody. So that's what we call an elevator pitch. So in American entrepreneurship classes, you have to practice that over and over and over, even when you're a teenager, right? Just how can you clearly, because an entrepreneur is not perfect and doesn't know everything, but generally should be confident enough to communicate, right? You all, by the way, are pretty confident in that stuff. You're asking questions and everything, but practice your pitch, because entrepreneurship is also being a salesperson, right? If you're a product or something, you have to sort of promote yourself. You can't just sit back and think people can read your mind or think that everybody's busy. You're busy with your lives, your parents, your boyfriends and girlfriends and other things. So everybody's always juggling things. You need to be able to say, this is why you should learn about what I do. I have the best product, right? I have a lipstick company. Do you like to wear a lipstick? You probably wear a lipstick. I have the best lipstick company, right? It's how can I make sure that you're paying attention to me, again, depending on what you're doing. So the more you practice, you get a little bit more confident, and you can figure out how to read people, how to communicate with people, and that stuff without being too intimidating or too irritating. It's practice, practice, practice. Does anybody do sports here, soccer or any other sports?
And
Basketball. Okay, that's practice, right? You weren't as good when you were 5 years old and 6 years old, right? It's a little bit of time. You talk to your friends. How can I do better at this? You watch some videos how other people do that stuff. Practice.
Also
practice.
bodybuilding, like bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding takes
Yeah.
a lot of commitment. Yep.
Yeah, because not easy, right? You have to wake up early sometimes. You can't eat candy all the time,
Of course.
right? Just, you have to have discipline.
Sometimes you don't want to go to the gym.
It's
Yeah.
cold out, it's
Yeah.
raining,
Yeah.
you don't want to go. But an entrepreneur, same thing, right? Have to build that commitment.
I will tell you a funny story. When Joe Cap was our entrepreneur in residence, it was a Friday, and I was like, "Wow, man, the weekend! Looking forward to the weekend. You know, it's been a 5-day week." And he looked at me and he said, "What's a weekend?" Because an entrepreneur, they don't define work Monday through Friday. It's every day. It's every night. You're always on that, thinking about how to move the business forward or how to push themselves forward.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, kind of slapped me in the face with that one. That really hurt, but it was really true. That's the whole idea of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
The other thing too, let me just share this, with the internship that I mentioned earlier, I had this professor in my class, and he was just so brilliant. He was only part-time. He was a full-time, had another job, but he came in just to teach this one class. And I thought, man, his brain is full of all this information. I would just love to be able to work for him. And so I went to him and I said, I would love to have an internship with you. I will come and work for you for free. It wasn't about the money. It was about what was in his head. What could I really learn from him? And he was like looking at me and he said, okay, well, let me run it up the ladder, his bosses, and I'll get back with you. And so he got back with me and he said, well, I'm sorry, this is not going to work out. I'm going to have to pay you. So I ended up with this paid internship and I still got to pick his brain. So that's the kind of ways in which you can advance yourself. It's just find those other people that are really great mentors or role models and just learn from them, because knowledge is so powerful, what you can do with it.
Yeah. And you might not have it. Remember, I mentioned my father, who I love, could not really help me with homework, could not tell me what university would be like. So I was a little shy as a younger person, but like Chuck mentioned, I would approach some older mentors and be humble and say, I'm trying to learn university. It was very intimidating. A number of classes, big groups, whatever. But I tracked down some professors or other folks. They just looked friendly to me. So I asked, I said, could I meet with you once in a while? Some said yes, some said no. They were too busy. But I had to keep on doing it because you need that support. So we've talked about entrepreneurship a lot. Ask us other questions. What is American University
Can
like?
I ask another question?
No, go ahead. I'm teasing you. Go ahead. You can ask another question.
Like for education in USA, I wanted to study in the USA, what difficulties can I face in this place? What I have to do there? How can I prepare for the universities in USA? Can you give some advice?
Sure, this is definitely up your alley.
So you're probably looking at the university system,
Yeah.
because that way you'd have the availability of dorm space, lodging right there on the university campus. The key thing is definitely your academic performance, and your English is very good. So you won't have really any issues of adjusting and being able to communicate. University system, the reason I went community college, I will say the university system is more of, you come to class. If you don't, we don't care.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It's your responsibility to be in class, and you paid your money to be in class. And if you don't show up, the professor's going to focus on the people that are in class.
Yeah.
So go to class. For us at community college, yes, it was also equally important for you to be in class. But if you weren't in class, we'd call you. Where are you? What's up? We miss you. Come back. Because we know being able to be in class is how you're going to be successful. So finding the balance when you get to the university, because it's such an incredible experience, focus on academics, but there's also the social interaction with people that you're going to meet, not only Americans, but others that are from abroad, traveling like you and studying abroad. But again, it's the academic preparation and making sure it's time management. Because one of the things I struggle with from my experience in academics, and I'll share this as a story for all of you, Community colleges, our teachers and professors are focused on only one thing, and that is to teach in class. University professors are involved with research, writing grants. They may have teacher assistants. They may have grad students teaching some of their classes. So they're focused on other activities. So you need to be able to look at time management and making sure that you're balancing your classwork, your study time, to be able to work within that class structure. Community colleges, again, the faculty are always office hours, working with students. If you are working with a professor at a university, you find their office, you study their office hours, and you go. You put your face out there. Because the reality in some universities is that you might be in a classroom of 300 students, and you're just a blur.
That was the university I went to.
And I as well.
300 people.
761-387. That's my ID.
Student number.
My
Yeah.
student
They didn't call
number.
them a name, they called them a number.
Okay, got it.
So when I would look at my grades, all the grades on the outside of the door, 761-387, shoo, got a B. Okay, pass that test. At a community college, your classes are going to be this size and no larger.
So a little bit earlier though, right? Because some of you all look a little bit younger. So what I imagine you're doing, correct me, so you're working hard in class right now, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We hope so.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
The correct answer is yes.
Yeah. If you're not, again, then
Catch up.
then your opportunities become a little bit more limited, right? Want to be honest with you, right? Because you're making choices every day, right? And you just want to. Life is about sort of making enough of the right choices to create the opportunities. So if you do aspire to go to American University, or I imagine, other countries, you want to get, good things, you want to stay out of trouble because it's about academics, but good character, right? You might volunteer, do some other work, service, right? Many of the American universities, I assume, see a lot of people with good academics, but they also say, are you a good citizen? Are you helpful in other capacities? So they kind of look a little bit well-rounded. They always start with academics. You have to be, and Chuck did a great discussion last night about storytelling, right? So many times there's applications, because again, you may be one of thousands or millions applying. So you want to be able to tell a little bit story, which is again, like what else? Like an entrepreneur, right? You want to be a salesperson about your skills.
Sell yourself.
Why you and not him? What if there's only one spot and you're both applying? Right? You don't want to be mean to each other, but you're writing about what your passions are, right? Why is this university, why is this program so important to you? Because you want the person, the admission officer, right, on the other side reading that and sort of looking favorably upon you. They've never met you, but they look at the academics, some of your other things, and they want to know you've got a passion because they know it's not going to be easy when you come because you have to be disciplined, go to class. You have to, I live right next to a university, the University of Maryland. Right, and on the weekend, I'll go to our coffee shops because I like to read at coffee shops, and I'll see students there, and I can tell which coffee shops Ethiopian students favor. Right, they like to get together, which is fine. I love that. Right, people like people of their culture and that stuff to share some stories about home, or if there's a professor that talks too fast, his English is too fast, and you're still learning a little bit. That's okay, right? We can tease each other, help each other, and that stuff. So you'll find, your grouping at a university and that stuff. It might be at maybe there's a Uzbekistani restaurant or something, or some other group there. On the research side, right? So you're applying with the power of the internet. Now you might be able to find former Uzbekistani alumni of that university, right? While you're applying, see if you can approach them. Say, hey, I see you're from my country too. You went to this university. Could you tell me a little bit about that university? Maybe that person is very successful now, and they're a donor to the university, and they'll provide a recommendation for you, right? Which is an added letter in your application, right? You have to be brave. You have to sort of open up to people and those things, right? Because you want to position yourself well.
So, thank you for all what you. And there is a question. For me, I'm a very lazy person, but what can you say, or any suggestions on self-management or self-leadership? How to be not lazy as lazy?
Yes, of course.
as
Really good.
Yeah, this guy is great at talking about self-management, leadership, and how you sort of get your energy about you.
Yeah, because all what you said, it's on corners.
Yeah, and it's what Jack shared earlier, is that the people that you hang around with, if you're in the company of other people who are driven, you know, it becomes a little bit of a competition. You're like, wow, I got to stick with the crowd here because, you know, they're moving fast and they want to be successful. That's the group of friends that you want to make. And they inspire you. And a mentor is also a person that can really inspire you. And I shared last night, a mentor doesn't necessarily have to be someone older. It can be someone your age. It can even be someone younger. Because I gave an example last night of someone I met when I was in my 30s, and he was 19. Now I was working with students at the college as a counselor. And here's this 19-year-old, and I could really tap his brain and learn from him, how are younger people thinking today that might help me? And the people that I'd always try to connect with, they were always driven to being successful. So I would even find college presidents, you know, that I would want to hang around with, that were driven, that had a lot of creative ideas, that were fun to be with, but they were driven, because that inspired me to go back to my work and wanting to be successful. So the other thing I shared, you know, and not all universities, but a friend of mine, her daughter was getting ready to go to the university, and she was trying to pick which one she wanted to, you know, start in the fall. And so I saw her and I'm like, hey, what'd you think of the tour? What impressed you? Wow, the cafeteria was amazing. All the food and everything you could eat. Okay, that sounds good. What else? Oh, the gym and the pool and the workout room and all that. Oh, it's great. Oh, wow, cool. Okay, that's great. The student center, they had a bowling alley. Oh, wow, that's cool. Did you see a classroom? No. Did you talk about the program, your academic? Did you go to a business school? No. So time management becomes a really important thing in school because there's so many distractions, so many other opportunities that take you away from your academic being successful, and it really gets a lot of American students in trouble. And I think there was one of my new friends in here that was looking at Roanoke College. Where are you? Roanoke College? Did he step out?
He's in the meeting.
Oh, he's in the meeting. Okay. So Roanoke College, that's like 2 miles from my house. I'm like, what? So that was one of the schools he was looking into. It's a college. It's a private college. It's 4-year. It's smaller. It has a very unique academic program that's innovative and different from the traditional university system. I need to find out the other schools that he was looking and exploring. But that's the variety of schools and universities and colleges that you have in the United States. So don't let the glitter of all the shiny things of a university. Make sure you focus on the academic. Make sure you focus on the program of study. And the most important question, all of your graduates from this program, are they finding career placements? Where are they finding their careers? Where they're now finding success working? Because that becomes your ultimate, goal, right? Having a great career, good income, being able to start a whole new adventure with your life. And you also want to try to avoid creating too much debt. You don't want to have a lot of debt coming out of college, university, so that you can start that career so that you can focus on the things that you can enjoy in life with that new career.
Yeah, I would just add a couple things you mentioned quickly, and I know we only have a few minutes left. One is sort of goal setting, and you hear that a lot. You have to understand it in the way that works for you, right? So, but I imagine as students, you set multiple goals of things, maybe your hobbies, your family life, but academics is one of them. And you work hard towards that goal that you're trying, whether you're applying or getting into school, but then you can't forget that you need to set another goal, right? So, I don't want you to set goals about 5 and 10 years. You're a little too young for that right now, in my personal opinion. But want to set a series of goals, because right, if you just aspire to get into university, and that's your goal, and you forget to set another goal, then you might not do well at university. You may not do well. You might get into debt. You might get distracted by social things. So you want to be able to look a little bit in the future. Okay, I applied. I might get into one university. Now, what is my next goal? Is it getting a specialty? Or is it be ready for the job market or whatever else? Because again, that's going to sort of shape and discipline you. So setting a series of that. You don't want to make it too complex for you. I don't want you to write a very long document and have 20 goals. But just keep in mind it's a series of goals, right? We talked about bodybuilding or weightlifting, right? First, you have to go to the gym on a regular basis, but that's not all, right? Then you have to work out. Then you have to eat right and those things or other things. So it's a series of short-term goals. And then back to the point, if any of you all doubt what we're saying about hanging out with productive people, think of the opposite, right? So if you had asked me the question, you're lazy and you love being lazy, how could you be more lazy? What would my advice be to him? Hang around with more lazy people, and you will get better at being lazy. Right? If you ask me, how do you get unemployed or never have a job in your life, what would my advice be? Hang around with a bunch of people who are unemployed or have no goals. I will guarantee you, you will not be employed. You will be lazy and other things.
Broke.
It's the best way. If you're bad at being lazy, hang out with lazy people. You will get better at being lazy. Right? So if you accept that, then the opposite of what we were saying, if you want to be driven, you have to hang around with driven people. And sometimes that's not your friends that you love hanging around with.
Yeah.
I almost failed out of university because I was hanging around with my lifelong friends that I grew up with. Little boys, right? Know their families, their mothers love me, my mother loves them. They were not focused on school. I did not get in an argument, but I gradually started making some new friends. They are still my friends, but I do not spend a lot of time with them. Right? And some of them got in trouble. Went to, unfortunate situations. But I had to have that discipline and that. I love them, but I do not want to be like them. Right? And the last thing I'll say, my father I mentioned earlier, I was wrong. He actually helped me go to university. He didn't know how to do it, but he sat down with me one day, and what did I tell you? Did anyone remember what I told you he did? His work? He was a steel worker, a welder. Yeah. And I forgot, he rolled up his sleeves one day, because I'm stubborn, right? I wasn't listening to him, and I thought he was going to hit me. But he rolled up his sleeves, and he showed me scars on his arm. Why did he do that? Because as a welder, you get scars on your arm all the time. And he said, do you want to have scars on your arm? And I said, no, I want to, he said, go to school. He said, if you don't go to school, you end up like this, you have scars. And that made sense to me, right? I'm not as tough as my father, right? I didn't want scars, and I wanted a little bit easier life and, hang out with cool people like Chuck and that stuff. So, again, you're making decisions. It's not all, a desperate decision today, but you are making decisions and all these series of decisions. You made a great decision to come today, right? I suspect you all make a lot of cool decisions and that stuff. You're doing a lot of what we said, but we just want to reinforce some of it.
I'll tell you one last quick story. I was getting ready to graduate from high school. My grades were okay. I wasn't an A student. I wasn't an academic student, but I was an okay student. So I started the journey of looking at different colleges and universities where I might be able to continue my education. And I went to this one university for an interview. That's the other thing. If you have an opportunity, even with Zoom, even with video, if you can connect with that school, even if it's in the United States, if you can put your face in front of someone from that school, that's very helpful. It can't hurt. So that's what I was doing. I was putting my face in front of that university counselor, so when they might look at my application, they might go, oh yeah, I remember Chuck. And I sat there and she looked and she said, oh, looks like you were an okay student. Looks like you didn't really apply yourself. I'm going to give you some advice. I don't think you're college material. Wow. I was crushed. I was like, what am I going to do now? So my dad was with me, and he said, I know you, I believe in you, and I know you can do it. And because he helped me believe in myself, the next school I went to, I'm gonna try. That first year, I did not go out. I studied, and I made Dean's List. So don't let other people tell you what you can't do. Believe in yourself.
Yeah. Get feedback, but you know, if they tell you a door is closed, get upset.
Yeah. Don't
Get mad.
Don't
Get
take
mad.
it
Don't
lying
yell.
down.
Don't fight. Get mad. It's motivation. Yeah. Have you ever heard of the American basketball player Kobe Bryant?
Oh,
Right? He'd
yeah.
often get mad and use that as an excuse to go to the gym and practice more. Yeah. But yeah,
We lost a great player.
yeah, but sometimes you need that, you know. If you're lazy, I'm a lazy person sometimes too. You need a little of that motivation. You might get competitive. We all have that, right? You get a little competitive and that stuff. You don't want to be argumentative, but sometimes that's what fuels you to the next step. You all are gonna have great, bright futures. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I do. I think I'm gonna see you all when you're about 10, 15 years older. You're going to come to the United States and visit an embassy.
75.
I'll be older, and I'll talk to you all because you'll be successful.
Just hold me up. Just keep me walking
Yeah,
around.
no, they'll be business leaders and that stuff.
Right,
And
that's
they'll be
right.
coming to the United States and bragging about their businesses that they built. And
That's right.
They'll be like, oh, we remember you way back in the day. Yeah.
iPhones.
Thank you for sharing, but just to wrap up what we heard from you, can we, I don't know, some small tips or some how to be great leader or how to become leader and what it consists? Can we? Right?
Yeah.
I think I'll use what I used
Maybe
last night real
steps.
quickly.
Yeah, you kick us off.
Start or something visual to remember.
Yeah, I'll think about my answer. Chuck's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First one. A good leader is honorable. A person with character, ethics, someone you can trust. Character's always been defined as doing the right thing when no one else is looking. So people want to be able to respect their leaders. And they look up to their leaders because they see them as doing the right thing and being honorable. Good leaders empower other people to find their own inner power, their own success. They really want to help you be successful. So the leader doesn't want to be a manager. The leader doesn't want to tell you what to do. You got to do this, 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 this. I want to give you a project, and whatever resources you need, let me know. And I'm going to empower you to take that project, to do that work, because it becomes yours, and you can be proud of it. Great leaders are authentic. You know who they are. They're real. They're not trying to pretend to be somebody else. When you talk to them, you understand them. You see them for who they are. They're not being fake. There's not some kind of like barrier. They're the real deal, and you respect them for being that. Relationships. Leaders understand the importance of relationships with the people that they work with. They understand the relationships of the people that are a part of their community. They understand just the value of relationships and networking. And you know, one of the things people would used to come to me as the president of the college, Dr. T, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to come in today. My son is sick. I'm like, no problem. Family first. Family first. So that's an important part of relationships, having that with your people. and being touchable. Now what I mean by that is being accessible. If I'm walking down the hallway, and you saw me and you had a question, you could come to me and go, you know what, Dr. Chuck's cool. I can come up to him, I can ask him a question, versus some other leader where you see him come up the hall and go, not gonna ask a question, I'm scared, I don't know, not really approachable. So this leader is touchable, somebody that you can relate to. I always look at some leaders that I'd love to meet, and I think, man, it'd be kind of cool if I could just sit down with them and have a cold beer and just kind of talk to them, because they seem so approachable, they seem touchable. So those are the ones that I really focus on, and when you look at that, they are leaders who have heart. So if you can remember that, you can remember some of those important characteristics of leadership. Yep.
I'll do a real quick one, a visual. I'm a visual person, although I have not been drawing lately. Do you all know that about yourselves or whatever? Our minds work differently, right? Yeah. There's a certain number of you that see things in images. Other people see things in words. Other people are better at listening than reading, right? It's called neuroscience. And if you're ever in a group and everybody else is the different way, you feel a little odd because you feel like you're not learning like them. It's just, you have a different way of learning, which is fine, right? So never feel like you're odd. It's just, you have a different learning style. And that's why instructors need to pay attention, to that. And it's also good to do it in a couple different ways and that stuff. But on leadership, there's something, and there's different ways to lead, right? Sometimes it depends on what the task is, right? If you need to do something really quick, you may need to shout, right? But that's not a good way to lead on a recurring basis if you're trying to build a company and what have you. One thing leaders do is they always check the markers, and you never use a Sharpie on those boards. Yeah. So that's your first leadership lesson. Never use a Sharpie on that. I've made that mistake.
We all made that mistake,
yeah. So I haven't practiced this one or whatever. But again, imagine you have a big item, a big block that we all need to move, right? From this side of the hall to the next side of the hall, right? Now you all may think, oh, Chuck and I should lead this because we're a little bit older. We're talking about leadership, right? So we've got everybody all lined up here, and Chuck and I might, stand here and shout out directions. Okay, we want all the strong guys in the back. You guys get some ropes, tie it here or whatever, and then pull it over there, right? When you get the other side of the hall, it's late. Do it in the next 5 minutes, and we're leaders because we're shouting and we're saying, you're not pulling hard enough. You in the back, you're doing a good job, right? That could be leadership, right? And we might accomplish the task. But the next time we do it, you might say, oh, they've done it again. Chuck and Jack just like standing back and yelling at people, right? And many leaders do that. Another model might be, we're not here, we just join in the group and we grab ropes too, right? Right? Now you feel like we're working with you, but also there might not be a lot of direction. Because there's nobody saying which direction to pull. Are we all trying to do it at the same time, right? That's leadership too, right? So I think of kind of both, right? With my team when we're trying to accomplish something, I think as a leader, I should stand up front at the beginning because I have more experience in moving boulders and big things. And I should say, hey, here's a strategy. I think we're going to do this. This is my game plan because we want to move it over there. Does anybody have any questions? You have a better idea, right? I don't always have the best idea, but I've had experience moving this boulder. And if we're all in agreement, then we all, and then I think, or Chuck would do this, then I'll join you, and I'll roll up my sleeves and join your pull because we've all agreed, right? I've set a goal and a vision. I think I've come up with a strategy and that stuff. But if you're better at pulling boulders, maybe you stand up and say, Jack, I think we should do it a different way, and I'll hear you, right? But then at that point, I want to. Also, I think leadership is self-satisfaction. Right? Because I've been in leadership things where I've hated being a leader. Because the team always wanted me to yell at them. Some people like that. Some people just want to be told what to do. I don't like leading those teams. And I want to be happy as a leader too, right? So I think part of leadership is also finding groups that you want to lead. You're passionate about it. You've built a trust and the other heart factors just to talk about. So you can be a fulfilled leader, but you know, what you're doing now builds towards your ability to pick one of these leadership models because you have to have the skills, right? And that stuff. If this is really an architecture engineering project, when I'm talking to you, you might want to say, hey, Jack, do you have an engineering degree? And I want to be able to say, I've studied some of this. This is why you should listen to me. This is why you're part of my strategy. I want to be able to communicate that to you, but then join you and do it too or whatever, because I trust you and you're my team, and I want to be able to do this every week if we need to move this. So that's generally called servant leadership, right? Some of the most celebrated leaders in American corporations are not servant leaders. They're shouters, they're yellers, and that stuff. So, you know, sometimes celebrated people are successful and profitable, maybe not happy, maybe their workers aren't happy. So be somebody that sets a vision, has the skills, and join your team to move big mountains or make things, because you're gonna do amazing things, whether you're building companies or becoming PhDs or doctors or whatever you choose in life. Yeah. Sorry for my poor drawing.